Hi guys, in this lesson I'm going to talk about what kind of arpeggios you can use on a minor 7 chord. I've already made a lot of lessons on different kinds of arpeggios and drop 2 voicings and all sorts of stuff that you can use as arpeggios. So I thought it would be useful to approach this from another angle and then start with a chord, because that's what you encounter when you're playing a song, and then look at what kind of arpeggios can you actually use on that chord, just to sum up some of that information from the other lessons. So what I'm going to do in this lesson is I'm going to take the 2 chord in 2-5-1 in the key of C, so that's the D minor 7 in this progression, D minor, D7, C, and then I'm going to give you 10 examples of different arpeggios and different structures that you can use when you're making lines on it. The examples I'm going to go over in this lesson are fairly basic. There's not really a lot happening with the note choice. It's pretty much just the notes of the chord and a few extensions that are being used. But I think this lesson also demonstrates that it's more important how you put that together and how you use the arpeggios as interesting melodies, rather than having sort of funny note choices and using exotic scales that's going to give you some strong melodies. So let's just get started with the very basic first example, which is the arpeggio of the chord itself, so the D minor 7 arpeggio. The arpeggio looks like this, in this position anyway. And if I make a line with that, that could be something like this. You'll notice in the examples that I'm not really playing the entire 2-5-1, I'm just playing a bit that will be on the 2 and then resolving that to the 5. You can sort of complete it with the rest of a 2-5-1 line if you want to. That's a good exercise, and I think I'm just going to keep it short because it's a lot of information with 10 examples, and it's easier if we just focus on what I'm actually talking about and not like playing a complete line, which is for the most part something that I'm not really concerned with in this lesson. The second example is using the arpeggio from the third, which is pretty much the second place you want to look if you're looking for something to play on a chord. So we already have the D minor 7 arpeggio, and the third is of course F, and the arpeggio we have there is an F major 7. So that would be this arpeggio, and if I make a short line with that, that could be something like this. And you'll notice that I'm not playing the arpeggio just straight up and down. I'm really trying to make a melody with it. So I'm repeating some notes and just trying to be a bit creative with how I put the notes together. That would be some of the first things you should check out when you're working on an arpeggio, or actually anything you're working on. Don't just try and play it up and down, but really try and see what kind of melodies you can make with it. Start experimenting right away, because that's how you're going to come up with great ideas. If you just play it up and down, it's going to be sort of mechanic and a physical thing that you're going to do, and not so much something that you're using to make music with. The third example is taking the original chord, which is the D minor 7, and then just playing the triad, so the D minor triad. A line with that would be something like this. So I'm starting out with the triad here, but I'm not playing it in the right, in the normal order of root 3, 5. I'm starting on the third, and going down to the root and skipping up. And then after that the line is just a scale run with a chromatic leading note. Another triad that works really well is the triad from the third of the chord. So that's an F major triad, and a line with that would be something like this. So until now we've been working mostly with the sort of basic structures like the 7th arpeggio and the arpeggio from the third and the triads, but we can also start working with some structures that have a bit more open intervals and are going to leave out some other notes. So the first set of those would be to take, we're still just going from the D minor and the F major, but then use the shell voicings. So a D minor shell voicing, which I've already made a lesson on, and I'll link to it in the description, is this. And if I make a line with that, it sounds like something like this. And from the third I have this shell voicing. And if I make a line with that, it's going to be something like this. Another place you can look for some interesting voicings is to use drop 2 voicings. If I play sort of a basic D minor 7 drop 2 voicing, that would be this. And if I make that into an arpeggio, then we can use this and we get a line like this one. If I want to do the same from F, I could have, for instance, this arpeggio, and a line with that would be something like this. Of course, with all of these things, especially with the drop 2 voicings though, you can make inversions of them and use those in lines as well. So there's some stuff here that I'm not really going to go over, but I kind of covered that a bit in my lesson on it. And if you want to look further into that, the same goes with the shell voicings, then you can check out the lessons that are on that subject and use that as an inspiration. Another thing that's really useful is to use quartal harmony as arpeggios. So in this case, I'm using this, which is basically like a C sus chord. But you can also look at it as being a D minor 11. And so you have this arpeggio, and if I make a line with that, that could be something like this. And these notes sound interesting because they're all fourth intervals. But you could also, the inversion of a fourth is a fifth. So that means that we can stack those as fifths too, so we get a quintal voicing, which is something like this. So these are the same notes, but just put in a different order. And this arpeggio, you can make this kind of line with. That was 10 examples of different kinds of arpeggios you can use when you're improvising on a minor 7 chord, especially in this context as a D minor 7 in a cadence. But of course it works with any kind of Dorian and actually also most Aeolian kind of sounds that you can use this. There are a lot of places where you want to use a minor 7 with a Dorian sound even as a tonic chord often. So for that you can also sort of put this to use. As I already mentioned, it's sort of just suggestions and stuff that could inspire you to work on using these things. When I work on improvising, I guess I take one of these sort of structures and then I just try and make some lines with it and sort of get an idea about how it sounds and how I can make some lines that are sounding good and also are easy to play. And then I try to apply that to a song or a progression or something like this, just to get it into my playing and sort of make it part of what I already use and connect it to all the other stuff that I'm already playing. Because that's the way it's going to really sort of sit in your playing. At least that's how it works for me. I hope that you can use the examples that I went over here. If you want to download a PDF of them, you can go to my website. There's a PDF download of all the examples in the article that accompanies this lesson. Of course, I've linked to all the other lessons that I made on these subjects. If you want to dig deeper into some of the things that I'm talking about here, then there is a link in the description to the different lessons. There are like 3 or 4 lessons that are talking about the stuff that I went over here today. When you're on my website, if you want to stay up to date with what's happening in terms of lessons and if I'm putting up new lessons for sale in my web shop or upcoming concerts and CDs and stuff like that, you can subscribe to my newsletter there. If this is the first time you watch one of my videos, I make a new video every Thursday, so there's always a new lesson coming, and I've already been doing this for 1.5 years, so there's already a lot of lessons, and you can subscribe if you want to check them out and if you want to stay up to date with new lessons coming. If you have any ideas for topics or suggestions, stuff you want to hear me make lessons on, or if you need something clarified from this lesson or have a question, then please leave a comment on the video or connect with me on social media. There's links in the description for my Facebook page, for Instagram and Google Plus and Twitter. It's always nice to hear what you guys think, and also if you have suggestions for stuff you want me to do a lesson on, or if I'm unclear about something, then it's nice to be able to sort of set the record straight. So that's it for this week. Thank you for watching, and until next week.